Welcome to Choices, a production of First Assembly of God, LNP, Durban Street, Workmanville. The panel continued their discussion with virtue value shaping society. Micah chapter 6 verse 8 reads, He has showed you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. We encourage you to stay tuned and be blessed.
We thank God for this opportunity that we can come into your homes in the quarantine on the west coast of Bobbies, Maikoni, Maracaibo, Comarca on the Demerara River, West Coast Demerara, wherever you view us from. We want to welcome you at this moment, and I want to encourage you to call your loved ones, call your neighbors, call your friends, sit and listen at this program, and when it's true, I want you to decide who in this family setting will hold the line to get those values remain in our society, in our homes, and in our country. Stay tuned. God bless you.
This evening we want to continue to examine the topic, the virtues of values shaping society. Central to our discussions were values such as hard work, honesty, discipline, loyalty, love, mutual respect, empathy, justice, and the impact that these have on society. Values are powerful drivers of how we think and behave in society, and therefore we cannot overemphasize the significance of the contribution of institutions such as the family, church, even the school, and other social groups that they make in shaping a society that is decent and progressive. The role of these institutions must never be overemphasized. And I'm sure that before the end of our discussion, we will touch on some stories where we will put these values into context in relation to the story of Jesus addressing the scribes and the Pharisees in Matthew 23:23, 2 Samuel 12, David and Nathan, and finally 2 Chronicles 10:8, where we look at the story of Rehoboam and Jeroboam, which actually caused the division of Israel. Gentlemen,
this is any discussion on values will always be topical, whether you live in a developed society or a primitive society. It will always be topical. We have a duty, all of us, and we've been emphasizing this duty and placing a heavy burden on parents, members in the family, the guardians, to be guardians of these values, and we should not drop the ball. But it's not just parents. This is a duty that all of us have as parents and guardians, and we have to ensure that we hold the line, we don't drop the ball. But that's not where it stops. In society, we have very powerful people who are clothed with lots of authority and power, and they should not really believe that as it relates and as it pertains to values, that the rules are different for them. They also have to ensure that they submit themselves to these same values and rules. And a very powerful picture for us to consider as we continue to examine on choices, this whole notion of the importance and the virtues of values. We look at David. David had a lapse as a king. He was a man, he was a human. And there are times, especially in times of great relaxation and after great victories, we tend to develop a blind side as human beings. When you're basking in success, you've just had a beautiful run of success, and you become gradual, become careless, you drop your guards because you've just had a great victory. This guy was really relaxing. His army was fighting, but he was relaxing. And the story is a long story, but a very involved story. He went for a walk one night on his roof. The houses in Israel then, still even now, they are kind of flat. and he observed a beautiful woman bathing. The husband was not smart enough to build an enclosure for her, so her bathing was public, and David saw. And David just didn't see. But he inquired further and summoned, using the power that he had, and summoned the woman. The long story is they cohabited, and he thought he was going to cover it up and everything like that. As he dealt with that aspect of his life, continued, sent for the woman's husband, and who was fighting in the army there on the battlefront, attempting to cover up this matter. We're talking about David here and Bathsheba and a guy named Uriah, her husband. And this man would not, even though he got drunk, wouldn't go home because he was a real soldier. I can't be pleasing myself with my wife while my comrades are dying out there, a real soldier. And he held true to his set of values. He went back with his own death message, put him in the hottest part of the battle. He died. And David thought that this matter was over when his general sent the message that Uriah was dead. The scene shifts to, it's recording in 2 Samuel chapter 12, very 11 and 12. And one day David is languishing and in his home, and the man of God, a preacher, came to him named Nathan and said, "Sir, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor." I like this, that the preacher could have approached David. You see, David he subscribed to a set of values that even the best among us, there are times you develop a blind side. And it is important that you have people around you, good people around you. And we started the program by saying parents are very important. But what about the man who becomes a power broker in society? That man also needs somebody around him, or that woman, who can help them when they are dropping the ball. Nathan turned up, and Nathan spoke to David. And when David heard this scenario, Nathan said, no. David rather said, no, this is wrong. That is wrong. And the famous words, "Thou art the man," brought him to his senses. Thou art the man. So it is important, notwithstanding how much power and authority we are clothed with, that we keep people around us, and we ourselves keep ourselves open to receive that kind of instruction or kind of advice from those who are guardians of values.
Even as you said that we saw Nathan holding the line. Sometimes forces you might be surround yourself with people who might be, in our context we will say yes men. And so the leader might be doing things, but nobody has the gall or the guts to actually say that what you're doing is wrong. And so we saw Nathan holding the line, because Nathan knew that the actions of David contradicted the word of God, and therefore he was not prepared to allow that to slide. And in every society you need people who will hold the line regardless of whoever the person might be. Once you're doing wrong, you should be told.
In fairness to David, I think also Nathan painted a picture. He didn't specifically describe what David had done, but he painted a picture. And that is what values should do to us. When someone paints a picture, because we have internalized those values, we've inculcated them, we're able to see our folly, where we've gone wrong. And I think values must help us. We shouldn't treat it as, something's written, you have them piled on the shelf, and when something happens, then you take it down and then you attempt to apply it to the situation. But rather, once it's inculcated, it's within us. As we see situation, then uprightly and say, no, this is right and that is wrong. So in spite of what, even though David had done something very despicable, as soon as Nathan painted that picture, right away he's able to recognize that something is wrong. And even he didn't recognize then was him, but immediately recognized that something was wrong. And that is what value must do, bring us to our senses that we are doing something wrong and we need to step back in line.
I love the role of the church. I love the role of the state. And I like you said, Elderly, it is very clear that David had a set of values, and all the prophet did was to remind David of those values. You could tell the society was set on a certain kind or a certain set of principles and values. And therefore, once David, king, or whoever had crossed the line, all you had to do was to remind the individual of the values that govern this environment. I believe in every environment for it to succeed, from the home to the work on the road, in the streets, in the offices, even in the church. There must be a set of values by which individuals to live by. And therefore, somebody, a group of persons, must ensure that they uphold those values. I was reading recently, Bishop, about a young man who taught the Sarah Potter College of Education program. He interested me because at the very beginning he spoke about commitment and hard work. And I thought, well, you know, he will say, I learned all of that from home. But in that article, besides the work at home, he said that he learned to teach, learned the discipline of teaching at Sunday school. He was taught how to teach in Sunday school. So the state is benefiting, but here the home played a part and the church played a part in developing this young man's set of values. And I believe we should have this hand-in-hand approach to ensure that the state survives.
You know, the ordinary Guyanese will say David had a conscience. You know, they will say cockroach and eat out a conscience. You know, he had a conscience, the Guyanese expression. And that's powerful because when David heard the analogy used by Nathan, David's anger in verse 5 of 2 Samuel chapter 12 said his anger was burned, David was burned with anger against a man. And he said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, and he was upset with the story that he heard, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this deserves to die. He must pay for the lamb 4 times over, because he had done such a thing and had no pity. And Nathan, on this recognizing that the king had his value system in place, he lapsed, said, sir,
You are the man.
you are the man. You know, you are the man.
David, in what he did, his actions, previous to the prophet coming and speaking to him, he broke the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th commandment. And what made it so despicable, he was responsible for administering justice in Israel. He was the leader of the nation. And to see him falling into something like that, the values that he should have been upholding, because society looked to this man. He was the king. He was the person in charge. And so many times those in charge believe that they are a law unto themselves. The value system should just be for the commoner. They should be the one who should submit themselves, but we do as we please. I beg to differ. We cannot have this in society. If we are called to be leaders and to be an example, to be upholders of righteousness and justice, then we ourselves should submit ourselves to the value system.
You know what is a powerful picture here also? It just doesn't end. You know, all of us as leaders, whether you're leading a gang of fishermen, whether you're leading a set of boys at school, or whether you're a girl guide, whatever you are, wherever you're leading a bank, you're leading a government ministry, you're leading major departments, you're leading the police, the army, the government, the judiciary, whoever you are, powerful people, powerful actors. Nathan said to him, you know, this is a